next couple of days, we know there's, of course, going to be the meeting between our Prime Minister and the United States President. Now, we also know that the media is going to be more focused on the body language than anything that is actually said or done. We also know that it's not going to be a cantankerous meeting. Why? Because, generally speaking, when two world leaders get close enough to each other, the politeness and the cuddles. So I always sort of think some of the expectations around this stuff gets a little bit weird. You're not going to solve the world's problems or start World War III on the side of the main meeting. But what would you hope comes out of it here, Matt?
Look, I think Joe Hockey summed it up really well, showed why he was such a good ambassador when he said that, look, he hopes our Prime Minister starts the meeting by saying, what can I do to help? I mean, the United States, I think, does need some help from its friends right now. It's a divided country. It's got massive debt. It's had a couple of decades of relatively stagnant economic performance. And it's trying to take on, as usual, the burden of being the policeman of the world right now with all the conflicts around there. So, look, as a good friend and ally, we should be trying to help them as much as we can. I thought Anthony Albanese's juvenile and petulant response a couple of weeks ago to the request to lift our defence spending was not worthy of an Australian Prime Minister. He called the Secretary Hegseth's considered speech in Singapore a comment, and then went on a rant about how we're a sovereign nation. Well, of course we're a sovereign nation, but we've actually only kept our sovereignty by having strong friends in the bloc. And we need those strong friends now more than ever. So, look, I just hope that a spirit of cooperation comes out, that we are friends, let's try and work together. We might not be able to lift our defence spending to 3.5% of GDP, but we should give it a worthy consideration if the United States thinks that's what we can do to help the alliance, to help our region, and ultimately help the world stay as peaceful and prosperous as we can.
But again, Nicholas, majority of people don't like Donald Trump in this country. Obviously, Albanese was able to leverage that in part of how things played out at the election. But if I have to choose the leader of the world, I don't want it to be China. I want it to be the United States. And that means whoever the occupant of that office is, whether they are the living corpse of Biden or the, current occupant in Donald Trump, I want us to have the best possible relationship, which means I think they will probably find some way to interpersonally get along. But as a person who's a long-term Trump skeptic, let me put it that way, are you hoping that Lefty Albo gets in there and just gives him a couple of truth bombs, says something nasty, Jacinda Ardern style at the lectern? What's the lefty in you, really wanting out of this moment?
Paul, full love actually, go that, yeah.
Correct. What do you want, Nicholas?
As you know, Paul, I'm on the sensible centre straight talk express here in Melbourne these days. And,
yes, I read your interview with Peter Fitzsimons.
Look, I think...
Yes.
I think that the alliance with the United States has served Australia very well, and I think it has served the United States very well as well. And I think that, powerful reminder of mutual interest and common values and belief in democracy is something that Albanese should speak to. And we are allies. And the idea of saying, as Joe Hockey is suggesting, how can we help is probably a sensible start. I mean, of course, the big worry is which Donald Trump is going to turn up. Like, are we going to see the Donald Trump who, turned up for the phone call with President Xi from China the other day, where, by the end of the exchange, Donald Trump was off to China? Or are we going to see the Donald Trump who turned up to the meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister? He's probably closest ally, the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, or Zelensky, where things just go totally off the rails. We don't know. And so that's what's so compelling about Donald Trump and the whole Donald Trump era. Doesn't matter what you think about him, you can't look away. And one thing we can all agree on is Donald Trump's been very good for Sky News, and in fact every TV news network in the world, because we all just don't know what's going to happen.
Don't forget all the others.